Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey chapter. I have no microphone. It will be changed. Give me a second. Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey chapter 237. It is the first day of the week, aka the Kamehameha workout. Kamehameha wave, I should say. Workout. I'm feeling pretty good. It's a little bit later than I wanted it to be, but hey, the sun's out. The daylight savings has happened. So, fun. But anyways, to the main subject matter for today, which I didn't want to actually do because I was going to discuss something else entirely. I was trying to go for a more positive video, but then I was like, fuck it. I talked about this earlier today and it's on the brain, so why not? Which is, I dislike heavily BetterHelp. BetterHelp.com, as you may or may not have seen in multiple ads in YouTube videos. Personally, not a huge fan of that type of service for a lot of different reasons. I'll probably go into the details in the voiceover, but for now, I just want to say this, and this is something that I will personally say. Weren't they in trouble like a few years back because all of a sudden you can become a psychologist on there or somebody to talk to? You aren't necessarily had to have proof of a actual degree, and wasn't that a huge fucking deal? What happened to that? Did they just magically get rid of that, or what went on? What happened? I like how it was like there was a big issue, then they stopped having that issue, and then people started getting reintroduced to it. So that's kind of interesting. But anyways, back to the actual disdain I have for it. I think my main issue with something like BetterHelp isn't necessarily what they're trying to do, but more of a representation of what they've become and or what the psychology field has become, and how much of a weird, like, drive-through-esque type of situation they've made. Now, I'll preface this. I'm not going to say that there aren't people that don't benefit from something like that. I'm not going to say that that isn't the case. And it makes sense. People will use those types of things to help themselves out. But I feel like the vast majority of the people that actually should use it should probably also see somebody in person a little bit more. And also, the people that are there to help them aren't the end-all be-all of the people. A lot of the people that have entered the psych realm in most modern years now, genuinely, I don't see them doing anything really groundbreaking or anything like that, because it's become a joke, unfortunately. Everything that you would want to see from a psychologist, if they're not learning from the past, good luck. But the main thing I want to say about that particularly, and where it kind of convolutes into the entire BetterHelp idea, is like a simplification and the ramifications of the oversimplification of certain things, and the ability to explain away everything. And I think that I understand why modern psychology would like to believe that you can explain every single thing that happens to you and all these other tactics or whatever, and give everything a name, and I understand that. But I feel like that gets people to be pushed into a self-labeling area, and thus you see it with a lot of people in certain social medias that will start labeling themselves X, Y, or Z because they hear these terminologies used by professionals, and thus they can try to do it on their own. See WebMD, I have a wart on my hand, it's cancer, that entire thing, but with just mental stuff. So it's a little bit of a interesting thing there, but because it's mental, more people have the ability to say that these things are accurate, when realistically, if they have like a third party review them and legitimately, they're not really any of these things. It's the ease of saying, oh, I'm this, oh, I'm that. That's part of it. The other part of it is the like bastardization of what is psychology and putting it in what is equivalence of a like fast food area or a convenience thing. I understand why it's done that. I mean, it makes sense. Like I said, for people that should probably use it, it's not enough. And then for people who probably could benefit from it, don't even bother with it at all, that type of stuff. But it's a commercialization of such a what should be a meaningful thing. I think that most people should be like at least have one type of thing where like they get to know themselves, but through the lens of psychology so that they can understand themselves a little bit better. But I think that going about it this way is good for some. Some people don't need it at all, so that's fine. But a lot of people who end up needing it will end up getting a fast food version of it and not really a in-depth look into what is their psyche, and or just a few things like that. There are a bunch of other issues I personally have with it, as well as the idea of psychology and how different it is today. I'm sorry, my dog is going crazy on the carpet right now. With that being said, we'll get downstairs and go into more details when we go to Mother Base. All right, so started this day off with dips, which were pretty good. But anyways, back to the main subject matter here. BetterHelp sucks. The main reason why I wanted to talk about this was because it was something that had been on the mind for a while there. Besides the fact that they have been in multiple issues before. I think I'll have at least one or two on screen right now. But besides that entire scandal, because there's no real reason to even trudge this thing up, the moment I saw this as a service, I knew something was awry, really. And I think to sum it up in the best way possible is the idea that this is a drive-through mental health. And I know that there's a lot of conveniences and the power of the computer is amazing and great, and telehealth is slightly a thing. But there is no true real replacement for in-person sessions. And I understand where you could possibly do this, but the body is something that can tell a lot when somebody is maybe not telling the whole truth when it comes to their mental health and or psychological aspects of their own psyche. It is a package deal, but we'll get to that in a bit. Personally, I'm just not a fan of it because I feel like it cheapens the entire idea of psychology. It puts it in a lower standard than it probably should be, although there are a lot of issues with psychology nowadays, which I will just touch upon because now psychology has become a giant shit show. I will probably do an entire episode about how it's become a shit show, but to touch upon it, it has been oversaturated by people who generally do not want or do not care to actually solve the issues that are plaguing people, but more so label the issues that are plaguing people and then move on and have them absorb their problems and give it off to the next person while doing absolutely nothing to actually fix the issues, if that makes any sense. I think that nowadays you have a better chance at trying to fix yourself rather than have somebody else come and help you out, because more likely than not, they're more likely just going to label what you have and then either give you a pill for it or see if you can live with it. One of the two, and obviously, as you can probably tell, not a fan of either of those situations because you can live with certain things, but there are other things that you should probably do without so that way you can live a better life, and not even just a slightly better life, but a completely different and changed life. So that is my issue with that, and that's just touching upon that as well as just to touch upon the academia of today's psych and how it's been bastardized because of tenure. And I don't want to get into that in this episode because it is truly a whole other subject. Personally, I find it interesting that this became more of a thing, mostly because I feel like when it comes to mental health, it is something that isn't a one-dimensional thing. And I think that everybody who does this misses the entire point. It is truly not a one-dimensional thing. It is a 3D type of ordeal. We have the mind, the body, and the spirit all coalescing together. It is not something that you can separate. Sure, one might be deficient, and it may be the mental side of it. But realistically, if you aren't addressing the other two as well and making sure that they're in tip-top shape, it doesn't matter if one is really good. If the other two suck, it's screwed. You're going to screw yourself in the long run. So it is a package deal. And that's why something like BetterHelp only addresses one of the things, but you can't really address any of the other things. Now, this is just a problem with maybe telehealth in general, but I don't think that it is worth doing something like that, or at least those who need it probably won't even use it at all. And those who use it probably need something even more than this, which is interesting, but that's how I feel about it. It's just something that I'm tired of seeing the cheapening of good ideas then bastardized and destroyed just to make a quick buck and also ruin the reputation of what it once represented. And it's very saddening to see that happen.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed, none. Exercises skipped, also none. Got everything in. Thankfully, I'm very happy about that. But anyways, back to the main subject matter at hand. I think, generally speaking, this isn't, I'll probably do this as an entire subject matter on its own because it's not just this. Because BetterHelp is a symptom of what other things are, and that is the bastardization and monetization of mental health, really. And I hate the even term mental health in a way because it has been so overly done to the point where it means nothing, really. I dislike it now because it's been reused, rehashed, and retold so much that it's now kind of like a, okay, I get it, but also, ugh. You know, I almost miss the days where you could just say, I need a me day, or just something else because I get it, you know, like everybody suffers from some mental issues and things like that, and I understand it, but it's also kind of like a weird overexposure of it now where everybody has something going on, and I understand that, but I think at a certain point you're going to have to realize, and I think this is part of the reason why I dislike it, is that this is just the human condition. There is, like, we've known this for how long, that these things are just how we deal with things mentally, and then the strategies that have been in place for God knows how long. Obviously, things have changed, of course. The outside has changed, but the realities of the cures and or things to do in order to better yourself have always been there, but for some reason, people are quick to dismiss it because it is old. Like I've said in multiple videos before, and a lot of times in this channel, you're not that far away from your grandparents, really. You are just about 3 people away, and that is like over 100+ years ago now at this point. Who knows how long exactly, but still, that's a far time away. That's what, 1908, or what is it, 1925? Yeah, now, but even going back, since I'm a little older, obviously, it's still even more so like my age. If I'm like coming at where I think it is right now, where it's like 2005, it's not really 2005, but it feels like that was 10 years ago, which,
Well, right, 2005, that's still 1905, you know what I mean? Like, what the fuck was the world like back then? But yet, it was crazy, small, and not as sophisticated as it is today, but yet all the mentalities and all the things that are established back then are still relevant now. If you read old texts from like Jung, Nietzsche, Arthur Schopenhauer, Freud, all of these people that were lived like 100+ years ago, some still in the modern era, but still a good while ago, a lot of the things that they discuss are things that happen today. They aren't necessarily that far off, and also are talking about the same conditions that we always think about whenever we think about like human suffering and what to do with life, our past influencing our future, and all of the things that we don't even know influence us and all this other stuff. And it's astonishing to me that we'll throw that all away for the new shiny toy that in the end is not as good as the old toys because they actually tried to figure it out back then when they didn't have all the information on their hand, but yet they figured a lot of it out, which is also the other part of it too. I think there's something to be said
about trying to stop whatever the illness is rather than accepting it and living with it. I understand why people would want to do that, but there's a difference between living with the monster and destroying the monster. I think people have gotten too comfortable with the idea of living with the monster rather than destroying it, because destroying it means a lot, because it means that they have to destroy part of themselves, and that's never a fun thing. But that's kind of a whole other conversation for a whole other day. But to get back to BetterHelp, I will never be sponsored by them. They can suck my balls and they can kiss my ass. I will never be sponsored by them. I am glad to never be sponsored by them. There are very few people that I would be willing to be sponsored by, and they are not one of them. They can go suck it. Suck a duck egg. There you go. That's a reference there. But with that being said, tell me what you think in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this one. This one's more, I don't know how this one's going to be taken. It could be controversial. It could be nothing. I have no idea. But it's just, it is what it is. But please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back tomorrow with a new video. Please leave your comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this subject matter, or just that in general, particularly BetterHelp in particular. Thanks again for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please take care. Stay safe out there. Stay warm. And keep it heavy. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.